coming, so it felt like, okay, we're going live at you, but I didn't do it. Anyway, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show. It's good to have you here on a Monday. We're starting a new week. Just want to give the cheesy little reminder, guys, that a new week is a new beginning, which actually you can make today. You know what? You really can. You really, really can. There's something magic about today. Right? It's no different than any other day to make a new beginning. It's not New Year's Day, which I wouldn't pick New Year's Day to make a new beginning though, because that one has a bad record. It's got about a 90-something% fail record on making a new beginning, just telling you. But we can always make a new beginning if we do it the right way. And I'm telling you, one of the wrong ways is to think, oh, I'm just going to be different and sort of willpower myself into being different. But one of the right ways to do it is what we talk about on this show, where we realize, okay, I got an issue. All right, got a problem, got some stuff going on. And B, don't feel bad. I'm not saying don't feel sad and sorry and all that for everything. Of course. I'm talking about being bad, like you're bad in some way. You're not condemned or bad for not being able to make it work. But thirdly, guess what? You hadn't been able to fix it, right? Ha ha. There's an insight. I can't fix it. Maybe I should stop trying to fix it myself and reach outside myself, reach out to God and reach out to some people that know what they're doing, not my crazy Uncle Bernie. He didn't have a clue. He just got a lot of advice, right? A lot of people got a lot of advice, but you go reach out to somebody who knows what they're doing, or some group that knows what they're doing. They've been doing this a while, or some process that's proven. And today, take a step to make Monday a new beginning, because you're going down a different path. Not a different path. I was this way. I'm not going to be that way. Only, of course, that's the idea. But a different path of how you're going to do that. Okay. Just to try to be different, to try to cure your depression, your fear, get over your anxiety, get over by yourself. Are you kidding me? It just doesn't work. But the other way works. So let's get on a path with some people and some processes and God and new information and new experiences and support and all that. And this money can be different. All righty. I want to talk to you guys. 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774. My inner cheerleader. I never was cheerleader, but I am kind of excited about talking to you guys. So 844-940-2774 to be on the show. My wife said I started, we had some house guests in, and I was cooking up some Southern food, and she said whenever I start doing that, I start talking back, talking like I talked back when I was from Mississippi, and every now and then it comes back. So maybe we'll do a whole show like that. Anyway, we start off the program by giving the lines out. 844-940-2774. You can get in right now. I think there's a couple lines open. Talk about life, everything that we deal with in life that involves kind of stuff that I know anything about. A lot of stuff I don't know anything about, so don't call me that. But call me if you've got some clinical issues or relationship issues or performance issues, then I might can help. 844-940-2774. And we always start with an email question from our Boundaries.me subscribers. And here is this morning. Hello, Dr. Cloud. I am in great need to change my life to become an emotionally healthy person. You know what? You're going to get there because of that phrase. You realize you are in need to change your life, okay? A lot of people, do you realize how many people don't ever realize that they have a need? They just feel like bad stuff is happening, and they feel like they're bad, or they feel like, everybody's doing this to them all the time, and they're victims, and they're passive, and they can't do anything about it. But you own something that is the key to changing everything. You said, I have a need. I have a need. If you can get in touch with your need and not judge your need, not say, I shouldn't need this, I'm older than this now, I should have been fixed this. No. Just say, I need help. Okay, I need is the most powerful phrase that can come out of a human's in the beginning of the process of a human's heart and soul. One of my favorite verses, Jesus said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." Okay. So they're going to have all sorts of good stuff happen. Why? Because if you're poor, you start begging. And once we start asking, that opens the door. If we can't feel our thirst and our hunger, our need, then that's the key to the whole thing. So don't judge your weakness. Don't judge your need. Do what you did. I am in great need to change my life. Okay, that's a great start. To become emotionally healthy, I need to surround myself with healthy, safe individuals. Yes, you do. But want to become healthy myself, of course. I don't ever recognize my unhealthy patterns like I have this year. I guess I didn't ever recognize my unhealthy pattern. Hey, welcome to the program. Welcome to the program of life, right? Have you ever talked to a fish that knew it was wet? No, it just keeps swimming around, bumping into stuff and eating whatever's in front of them. But once the fish learns it's wet, then it's figuring out, wait, do I have any choices here? I need to find some water because I'm out of the water, flopping somewhere. I need a boat. I don't know. But we got to know we have a problem. And the fact that you have figured out that you got some patterns, what a great realization. When we realize that anybody can have a problem, right? If you have a bad relationship, that's a problem. You fix it. You pick a bad person, or you fail in some way because you can't get your act together to get something in on time, and you I won't do that again. You fix it, or whatever it is. If we fix problems, that's just part of life. But here's the difference: when we don't have problems, we have the same problem over and over and over again. That's a pattern. And you said you recognize patterns, and you are so far down the road already. You got a need. Okay. You're recognizing that. You realize you got to have some good people around you to help you. And you realize there are some patterns. I wish you were my client. You would be so easy. Oh my gosh. That's like half the work already done. Okay. I'm working on this, and this is a process, and it takes time. And here's the question: how do I stop feeling like I have to do this quickly? Good question. Well, first of all, you've got to just own that and surrender it as not a, and I won't read your name because you didn't say if you want to be anonymous, but I'm going to call you Susie. That's not your name. You know your name. But that's not just a Susie problem, that's a human problem. We want it now, right? So, of course, you want it now. You're not bad for that. Just own it. All right. You know, one of the interpretations of the story of the Garden of Eden is that this is kind of part of the whole mix that Adam and Eve wanted everything now instead of having to go down the path of learning to be wise. No, you can be as wise as God right now by eating this one step. Eat this apple or whatever we want to pretend the fruit was. Call 1-800 Be Free now. Call 1-800. You can take this pill, and you too can lose 400 pounds today by taking this one pill. Call 1-800 now. Operators are standing by to hook you up with the love of your life and the perfect match. It's going to ride off into the sunset on one of those big cruise ships. Never to have an argument or never disappoint each other ever again just by calling this number. You get the idea. It's a human thing. You can make a lot of money selling people on instant stuff, right? But it ain't the way it is. So what you have to do is you got to surrender that. Okay, first of all right. No, there's more to it than that. But I just want you to recognize this as human. I want it now and say, gosh, I wish I could put an acorn in the ground and it grow into a big oak tree in a day. Dead gummit, I hate it that that's not true. Okay, God, I surrender that and I'm going with your path. Let's now, once we say that, all right, once we say that, Then if I say, okay, I'm giving up the instant thing, God, I realize that. And I give you some favorite verses, as I call them. Go to the book of Hebrews where it tells you very specifically that, are you ready for this? I love, 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 love this verse. It says that he is God, meaning God. God is perfecting those that he's already made perfect. Oh, wait a minute. What? What does that mean? Well, simply it means that, you know, when we're in our brokenness and we reach out to God and we come into a relationship with him and we say, okay, I'm not perfect, but Jesus, you are, and I accept your perfection, then in God's eyes, he's already forgiven us. We're perfect in his eyes, even though I'm still a screw up. And then he says, all right, well, I see you as you're going to be, not as you are. And we're going to go down the path of making you into what you're going to be. Oh my gosh, it takes all the pressure off, right? So I want you to start with realizing time is a part of every process of healing, except when sometimes God supernaturally interrupts that. That happens. I've seen that happen. It's not the norm. Usually healing takes time. Even sometimes when Jesus healed people, there were steps in it. So realize this is a fact. Healing takes time and growth takes time. But remember what I said. God, I want this acorn to be an oak tree. Oh, it's not doing it. Oh, crap. I guess I got to do it your way, plant it into the ground. Now, what am I going to do? Well, we got time involved now. So here's a question like everybody has to ask himself every Monday morning. How am I going to spend my time? Well, glad you asked. You spend your time getting lost in the process. You're doing the gardening. So you go to your groups, okay? You spend your time getting around people that are growing. You spend your time reading, joinboundaries.me, watch the videos, listen to stuff. You spend your time in the process of growth. And I'm telling you, as research shows, when you are engaged in a process, guess what goes away? Time. You ever notice that? When you're really, really present, connected, and doing something that you're really engaged with, and it's got your passion and all of this, that you look at the clock and, oh crap, 2 hours have passed. Well, that's because you stepped into eternity. All sorts of research has been done on this. Read a book called Flow by Dr. Csikszentmihalyi. That timelessness is one of the signs of full engagement. So when you get into the full engagement of this, then you're going to learn that this is the way it works. It goes a circle like this. We go up and then we go down, but we're always going up. But we're kind of having to reloop through stuff. That's normal. You got patterns laid down in your brain. But also, the other thing is this: you are going to get in some groups and around people that have been at this a long time. And they're going to share how they've been at it a long time and they still screwed it up today, but didn't screw up as much as I used to. Okay, so there you go. That's how this works. So you learn, you surrender to the process, you engage in the process, you change your intellectual understanding of the process, that it does take time. You become comfortable and you enjoy the process, even with your failures. And when you do fail, immediately you say, well, there it is again. And you never spend another moment thinking about it after you confess it and you move on. Move on. One extra minute after you've found forgiveness, one extra minute beating yourself up for some failure is 1 minute you're not spending on getting well. And then you learn from others. And that's the way this works. And then you get encouraged because you start to get better. That's a good thing. All right, 844-940-2774. And let's go to the phones and talk. First, before we do that, got two announcements to make. We are having when is it? Is it next week? What is today? Yeah, today's the 12th. It is next week, right? Yeah, I think so. October 22nd. If you have been touched in any way by divorce, if you're going through a divorce, if you're contemplating divorce, if you've been through it and you're still hurting or you're hurting in the midst of it, then we're having a workshop, 2 hour online right here, divorce recovery workshop called Recover Well. And here's what we know about when people go through a divorce. There are some that really deal with the issues and they heal and they find hope for love again. They don't get cynical, they don't get bitter, nor do they get stuck in the pain and the woundedness, because that can't happen. They also learn, how was it that I picked a person like that? What was wrong with my people picker? And they go through healing, and the divorce becomes, as painful as it is, a door to the next season, which is going to be very different. But there are other people that they don't work on it. They just think, okay, I got to go through this in time. Then they might rebound into a relationship that's similar or worse than the one they had and keep repeating that, or the depression doesn't heal, or their self image is tweaked forever. So that's what divorce recovery does. It helps you become part of group one. So we're going to have a 2 hour workshop to help you. And you can find out about that by going to this website, boundaries.me/recover. Not recovery, but the word recover. Boundaries.me/recover. And you can get all signed up for that. And if you can't be there live, you can sign up and it'll give you access to it at the hour of your choice. Okay, now back to the phone. Evan Collins from Hemet, California. Welcome to the program, sir.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good to have you with us.
Yeah, did you just want me to ask the question, the question, Dr. Cloud?
Did did I call you to? I think you called me, but yeah, I want you to ask the question. What is your question?
Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was doing the process right. But my question was, I am a single man. I don't feel called to necessarily get married this season, but I'm having a very difficult time forming close relationships with people in my mid 20s, and I feel like it's been very isolating this season when I feel like
Mm,
everyone around me is getting coupled up, and I want to support my married friends, every friend that is getting married. But for this season, it's been really difficult,
mm.
and so I just need help trying to figure that out because it
Yeah,
really attacks my identity. But
that's that that's that's a hard thing. I remember, when I was single, and because I was single for a long time, I didn't get married to my 30s, and um, I remember sometimes you have these really close friends and hang out and all that, and then all of a sudden they start, as you're saying, couple up, and it's like it's, it's sort of like you lose them, right? I mean, you don't, but you do.
hmm
It, it's like I mean, it's a real loss. So you're not making this up. I've seen that. Um, eh, First of all, I think there's two sides to this, Evan. One is the practical side. Um, and the practical side is you've got an objective, real practical problem here to solve, which is you've got the problem that, a lot of people have when they move or when something changes in life. And that's just the practical problem of building community. And so if the numbers are depleting, then it is time to treat this as a real project with a strategy for it. And I would want you to sit down and first of all ask yourself, what's your vision? What is your desired future state? Let's call it that. Your desired future state 6 months from now. What would your community look like? All right, in your vision. What
hmm
are the what are the seats on the bus? What kind of people do you want to be around? Right? And then from there, begin to think about, okay, who's going to help me form that community? Because we always need some sort of help from the outside. Now, here's what I mean by this: that there are people that actually put communities together, right? There are therapists that have support groups. There are churches or other places, that have support groups or topical meetings or interest groups around hobbies or book clubs or whatever. I think what you've got to do is treat this as a real project and say, just as if I were going into sales and I was building my customer base, I'm going into life and I need to be building my community base, and really think about what people could help you in that regard. And then the third thing is to have a strategy for it and a plan and work at it just like you work at anything else. Now that's the hard side. What I mean by there's hard skills and soft skills, right? But
Mm.
I'm interested internally. Um, do you internalize this as like, does it get personal? Like there's something wrong with me. I don't have friends or anything like that. Or do you just really see it as a practical problem?
I internalize it. I can't tell if it's. I mean, obviously, it just seems isolating. Like I can't tell if I'm. I like what you said. It's like real losses, and it makes it feel like
Yeah.
it's real. But
Well, it
I
is
think that's
real.
yeah.
It is real. I'm just asking how the reality of it lands in your heart. Does it start to feel like something's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why don't I have friends? Why, I'm not, why don't I, that kind of stuff. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, like frequently, almost like
Yeah.
it comes up in my mind a ton.
Yeah. I wanted to ask that, Evan, because that's what I'm concerned about. And let me tell you why. I'm not psychic. Okay. I didn't know that about you just by, oh, and I sense that, here's how I knew that about you, because that's a normal human thing that sometimes comes with when you begin to get isolated by no choice of your own, and you didn't do anything wrong, or you didn't, you're kind of powerless in this happening to you because they're getting married and stuff, coupling off, you said, that the brain begins to register that as in this whole thing we call learned helplessness, where and I want you to watch for these three thoughts. I'm gonna there's an acronym for this called the three P's. And I want you to even write this down, or go back and listen to this again and write this down.
Yeah.
And everybody else can. When things happen outside of your control that affect you like this, your brain will change the software and it will interpret things in terms of the three P's. Number one, you will personalize it. What that means is you call somebody to go do something and they don't return your call, and you think, well, they don't like me because I'm a loser, or if I were more interesting, if I were more this, or I should have. But some way you begin to take more and more things personally, like there's something wrong with you. That's the first P. The second P is that it's pervasive. Well, it's not just this friend, it's every friend. It's not just my friends, it's my work. In fact, it's the neighborhood. And why do I even live in the city? It's like it's pervasive. Everything goes bad. Have you ever felt that? Is that happening now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Start to see the world in that kind of negative, everything's. And then the third P is you start to think, well, it's not going to be any different next month and the month after that. And in your head, it becomes permanent. Those three P's become a prison. And what I want you to do is I want you to watch for that thinking. And when it occurs, I want you to say, stop, I'm not going to think that way. And then go back to your dispute that and go back to your plan, okay, that I'm talking about, and begin to engage in that plan of really going about this. So a community is not something that, if you're lucky, happens to you. A community is something that you're actively building, because it takes work. All of us who have the blessing of having community know it didn't just happen. It actually takes, you have to work at it. So I don't want this going into a depression for you. I want you to head it off at the pass and reach out to some places where there's already stuff going on and get moving and start joining and see what happens. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Does that help you, Evan?
Yeah, it's good. I'll keep meditating over it. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Okay. I just, sometimes there's, oh, okay, and sometimes there'll be a little bit of a gap in there of, okay, well, and I'm going to come back at you just a little bit, Evan. I don't want you just meditating on it. I want you to take some action because, life rewards activity. And so just take the first step. Call some support group, call some church, call some whatever. Just get started and see what happens. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Call us back, and I want to hear what is going on after a little while when you're starting to put some steps into place. And for those of you who are out there and you hear the same thing, I remember, a lot of times in my life where there have been whatever transitions, and I remember one of the things that I would always think about, somebody's moving away, or this friend's, getting married, or I'm moving, or whatever. The first thing I worried about was, okay, I'm gonna have to replace that sense of community. I have to replace that sense of belonging. And I learned that somewhere along the line, just like I'm passing it on to you. It's been by far the biggest, most important thing, other than knowing God. That's the most important thing I have ever learned in my life. That everything comes as a result of the people that we surround ourselves with. Okay, that's not an opinion. That is empirically validated gazillion times, from health to wealth to knowledge to spiritual development to sobriety. Everything in life is empirically, statistically proven to be a result that's good, or on the bad side too, who you surround yourself with. That is just science. Okay, so let's get on the right side of science here. That's why, boundaries.me have so many sections on there on picking good people and safe people, and how you build, how you get your people picker to where you're picking the right people to be around you. Very, very important. Very, very important. Very, very, very important. Okay. Let me see. Speaking of which, John and Robin got a question about people that your son's surrounding himself with, apparently. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm so excited to hear your voice and talk to you. Your book, Boundaries.
I'm excited because I get 2 for the price of 1 here. I don't often get to talk to her. So
listen, your Boundaries book, I've given out so many copies and reread it, and kudos to you and John Townsend for writing that.
Well, thank you very much. We had no idea. We knew the value, people we worked with and all that. We knew the value of boundaries. We knew also that so many nice, loving, responsible people were living in hell because they were getting used and abused and controlled, and they thought, well, this is the Christian thing to do, to get beat up all the time and, get robbed by these idiots all the time, enabling them. And we would read the Bible and the scientific research and would say, well, nobody thinks that's good. So why don't we write a book to help people know, what, you can be a loving person and not be a doormat. That's okay. So there you go. Anyway.
Okay.
How can I help?
We don't know our question, but it might be something along the lines of, where do we go for here in the confrontation with my adult son?
How old is he?
How old is he? 42.
42.
Married, 4 lovely children. Been married 10 years or so. And the incident that kicked this whole thing off was a phone call from his wife about 2 weeks ago to my wife, and she can fill you in on it. Go ahead.
Okay. Our son has been friends since he was living in another state before marriage with a guy who is, you were just talking about it to someone else, not healthy.
Yeah.
He's not a believer that we can tell him. We can't judge his heart, but his behavior, he's pagan. So he's mean. He's just outright mean.
Mean.
And he sees, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is he mean? Is he mean to your son?
No.
No. Okay.
He's mean to our son's family. Mean to our son's wife through the years.
Why does your son allow that?
We don't know.
I would put him in the evil category.
Yeah, evil. And he brings him here.
Give me one example of why you would say he's evil. But we got to go fast here. Unfortunately, I can't get the whole story. But
one of the first,
what's one example?
Okay. He told our daughter-in-law called and it crying. Unfortunately, she told him to get out. But he had told her that every one of her kids in front of them, ages 2 to 8, every one of them must have had a different daddy because they sure as hell didn't look like their dad. And they didn't look like each other. Secondly, he called her a whore and a useless woman because she didn't work.
Okay, I got enough. I got enough. So
one more thing. The 2-year-old in diapers, he looked at her and said, "You're fat," by her name. And you'll be like that when you're bigger. Don't you grow up to be like your mama, because everybody is going to hate you.
All right, I get it.
Okay, so that's
so what? So tell me the question.
So the mother said, "Get out of my house, leave now." And our son took him in the truck and took him back to where they were staying. And then he never said a word that I know of at all. She said he never said a word. Then he wanted to bring him back later in the afternoon to apologize. And she said, "No, I don't want to talk to him again." And that's it. So she called. And now we are, as we know it, dealing with how to deal with him.
So I thought about how I was going to respond to my son for 2 or 3 days, because he's definitely affected us. He inadvertently, he has driven a wedge, or had driven a wedge, between my wife and myself. Because as a woman, she doesn't tolerate this kind of conversation, and that John had with Miranda. So I confronted him and said, "We've been affected, and we'd like to know what you would like us to do with this."
You confronted your son or the other guy?
No, I confronted my son by a text, and he never got back to me. He's ignored it. Well, that's an assumption. He has not gotten back to me. So just before your show, unfortunately, I didn't know we were going to get on and get advice. I sent him a second and what I called my last text. I said, "You have affected us. I have this image of John towering over Miranda."
Just stop for a second. How did it affect you, other than your daughter-in-law's upset and you care? How did it?
Well, it made me angry that he would even allow this guy around the rest of his family, much less.
Okay, so it's affecting you. It's affecting you because of your care for them. The guy's not done anything specifically to you.
No.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand the nature of it. Okay, I got to get to a question here. So what did you texted him and said what?
Well, I texted him and said, basically, "You haven't gotten back. I understand you had COVID. I let it go, and now I'm here for the second and last time. I'd like to know what we should do with this information. I have this picture of John and Miranda and your dear little daughter, and I didn't even mention to where I think he might be in the picture there when this guy confronted our daughter-in-law 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so
the basic question is he didn't do anything about it, and he's a Christian, and this just goes on and on. What?
Well, is it our
okay? So
our
give me a. Oh, I'm sorry, John. What?
Well, the tendency is to sweep this kind of stuff under the carpet. That's where they tend to come from. I went to Celebrate Recovery 2 years ago. I've been in Boundaries.me for about 2 years, and I'm learning. And now I'm trying to apply my boundaries, and sometimes I don't do a very good job of it.
Okay.
And I want to know. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You want to know what?
Well, I want to know where to go from here.
Yeah.
If he chooses to ignore it, then we're done. If he chooses to come back to me and we can talk, and maybe we can get into some of these other areas.
Let me give you a third. Let me give you a third way. Okay.
Okay.
Your son is somehow paralyzed in conflict. I don't know why. I don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
But
Agreed.
Greed?
Agreed. We agree with you.
Oh, agreed. Oh, I thought you said greed. I guess this guy giving him money or something. Okay.
No,
so because no guy with blood flowing through his veins is going to let some what come in and speak to his kids like that and speak to his wife like that. You're not going to allow it. You're going to throw him out in that second.
Exactly.
Okay? That's just, I mean, God and the Beverly Hillbillies would agree on that one.
I know.
It's just not normal human behavior. So what that tells me is when he hits that button, he's in conflict. And I don't know why he's in conflict, but he's in conflict. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I don't see this necessarily as a setting a boundary on your son. Your son's not really doing anything to you. I would see this more as something that he needs to be rescued from in his own head. Okay, exactly. He's paralyzed, he's castrated. This isn't normal behavior.
Yeah.
Okay? So what I would do if this were my son is I would call him and say, hey, you know what? I'm aware of all this stuff. I just want to understand, I just want to help you. This can't be easy. I know your wife's upset. It looks like, and I just like to understand. And what I would go do is I'd invite him off somewhere and sit down and say, just unpack it for me. What's going on? Mm-hmm. How does this guy have this much power? And are you aware of what it's doing to your wife? And how can we help? Because I think just to say, deal with this or I'm done with you, I don't know what he's going to be doing any different than he's already doing. So I really think, I think it is. You said I'm done with you.
No, I didn't. No. This is the last time I'm going to confront you with this, and maybe that's wrong. No, I said we will always love you, and we will continue to, to enjoy life with you.
Okay, great. But I don't know why it would have to be the last time. I mean, it's not I would just go. What I would do is go put my arms around him and say, look, son, this is not good. I'm worried you're going to lose your family. I'm worried about your kids. I'm worried about your wife. But for some reason, you're not seeing it. And I just need to understand first. That's what I would do. I would come alongside him and try to understand what's the block here? Why are you paralyzed? Why can't you see this? And then become a problem solver with him. I wouldn't go the either or route. Okay?
Okay. All right. One thing to understand, though, he's either a narcissist or he has a lot of those characteristics.
Who? Your son?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been told that, and we've been told that. Our counselor.
Well, I don't know. He sounds. I don't know what that means. But he sounds so passive and taken captive to me under this guy's power that I'm not sure what kind of narcissist you might be referring to, but either or, it doesn't matter. He's feeling powerless at some level. He's watching this happen, and that can't feel good. So I think that's the door you can enter into, but you got to enter into it by drawing out his vulnerability of why he's paralyzed. Okay.
That's really good. I have one question.
And thank you guys for stepping in. You know, this is one of the things that parents can do. Parents shouldn't try to run their kids' lives, but you know, when you see them struggling, absolutely, you know, hey, what can I do to help? Okay, Robin, you said one quick one, and I got to go to some other people. Go.
Is this something that you would recommend just John do with him? Rather than the two of us?
Well, I don't know the relationships, but all things being equal, probably yes. I'd say, yeah, okay. John, if you got a good relationship with him, yeah, I'd send, you know, this is, you know, I don't mean to be sexist here, and I'm not. I'm being role oriented. You're not. You know, a dad go talk to his son and say, "Come on, this is your role to stand up." You know, not allow this happen. You know.
Well, I think me being there would complicate it because I'm grandma. Anyway, that's it. I agree with you. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
you guys.
Totally turned the direction we're going. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Lord.
I hope it's helpful.
Thank you, Holy Spirit.
I hope it's helpful. Thank you, God. You can have him listen to this, because, buddy, I'm gonna tell you, I don't know what's going on with his friend, but at some level, just set your family aside for a second. This can't be good for you. I mean, I know the power of friends, and that's not the kind of power you want operating in your soul in that close of a friendship. Somebody that would look at a kid and basically lay out a future curse for them, and it's your own child. You don't. What? Why? Come on. Good people in our lives, they help us become more of who we're supposed to be. They help us become better relationally with other people. And they take us closer to God and his ways. Those are the three elements of what a good, safe person does. And I don't hear this in this friendship. So I want you to wake up, because this is going to be destructive to you. Destructive. Unless you set some limits and say, pal, either you stop this nonsense or I can't be around you. Okay. Thank you for that call, John Robin. You know, we talk a lot about intergenerational relationships and in-laws and grown kids and this, that, and the other. This is one of the reasons why we need multiple generations in our lives. I mean, my parents had both passed on because they were 1,000 years old when I was born. But they died back in 2008. But thank God I have my father-in-law and mother-in-law. But I'm kind of in the sort of, I help counsel people. I go into really complicated situations and help figure them out. But I don't know what I would feel like if I didn't have my father-in-law to go to sometimes, with some older and more experience and wisdom. And this is why we need generational connections in our lives. And this is a great example of a parent looking at their son. You're not trying to run their life, but you're concerned and you're stepping in and you're offering to help. And that's really, really cool. I wish we had more of that going on in this world. Get these generational ties. What happened to us? What happened to us? I don't know. There's too many broken relationships, but we need the grandmothers and grandfathers in the picture, active, not controlling, but active. Okay, Rachel in Arizona, in a relationship, sounds like with a boyfriend. And Rachel, welcome to the program. Tell us what's going on.
Thank you for taking my call. I don't know if I should break up or give my boyfriend grace. We've been seeing each other for a few months, and
hang on. Huh. You want to always give him grace, but that doesn't mean you can't set some limits and even break up with him. So those aren't mutually exclusive. But go ahead.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, pulling out all the stops, great guy, everything's just amazing. And now we're in the second phase of the relationship. And so
how long was phase one? How long was phase one?
A few months. Maybe
you mean and why the reason
months?
you're calling it phase one is you're talking about the kinds of behaviors he was really interested, pouring into you, seeking you, all of that, and you've seen that change, and that's why you're calling it phase two. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So what does act two look like in this movie? Because what you're going to find is, hey, I want you to picture a Netflix movie, right, on your screen. And you know how when you hit pause, you got the different little boxes with all the scenes, right?
Yes.
Okay. Right now, you're in act two of this relationship. We know how act one went. That was cool. Now we're in act two. Guess what you get to be? You get to be the writer of the script that's going to tell us what the next box looks like. It's not already written. You get to write it. How cool is that? All right, so let's get our pens out. Let's write the script. What's going on so far in this act, in act two? What's happening?
So there's been some changes with some outside factors. When I met him, his son didn't live with him. Now he does. He has a teenage son.
Okay.
And his son moved from out of state here. So we got a big change in available time. I understand that. And I have a 4-year-old. So I only get every other weekend of free time with him. And in the beginning, it was like, doing all kinds of stuff and everything's great. And then like about a month ago, it was kind of like, now we're not doing so much. And so I brought it up to him and I was like, I need more time. That's important for me. That's my love language, is quality time. And he's like, you're right. I, been taking you for granted, blah, blah, blah. So I felt like we were, on the right page. So
okay, so
hit
pause. And you're sensing there was a lack of time over and above what it should have been taking for him to take care of his son.
Yes.
Okay. Because there's a reasonable shift here. I mean, you can understand the guy's got a teenage son. He's got a parent by himself, right? So we would expect some sort of shift. But you're saying even way and above that, both of you agreed that he's kind of pulled back.
Yes. So he volunteers and does other stuff with not with his son, and it's through an outside group.
Wow.
So it's our gym. So our gym has been rephasing itself, and so he's not an owner, and he's been volunteering, and I'm like, okay, so I had this conversation because this past weekend, he spent the entire weekend there working on helping them. And I'm like, we don't get that much time. And I don't think it's too much to ask for him to square away some time with me. I didn't say the whole weekend, but we had the conversation, and he hasn't been in a relationship in a long time. And so I don't know if it's just him not knowing how to juggle things, or whether or not this is something I need to step back from.
Well, what does he say?
He says,
I mean, he's the one that's doing it. So let's hear his explanation. When he said, so why? What would he say?
Okay, so I previously was in a marriage where I was not a priority. I was like way down at the bottom. And so I basically said, I'm like, look, this is following a very similar pattern. This is not the life that I want to lead.
Good for you. Good for you.
And this is this is a pattern. Look at this is the exact same thing. You're going and putting everything else before me. And I understand we're not married, so his son should come before me.
Oops, I lost you there.
No.
You're going. Last I heard was you're going to putting everything in front of me. So was that kind of the statement?
I said. Oh, I'm sorry. I said that we are not married, so his son should come before me.
Well, his son's going to probably come before you, even if you are married in a certain kind of way, but that's a different topic.
Yes, and I
okay. So,
and
so what does he say? So, what is his answer?
He said, "Well, I'm not out drinking. I was working. I was helping, and whenever people ask for help, I'm going to help them until the job is done." And so it's a matter of.
And he would say that. He said, the people that I help are always going to be in front of you in the line. I can't hear you.
That's how I feel.
I lost you.
That is how I feel.
Now, is that what he says? The people that I help, the people that I help are always going to be ahead of you in the line. Is that kind of what he says?
He didn't say that. He said, I said, if you don't want that kind of life, that's fine. Like, if you want to lead a bachelor life, that's okay. I just need to know.
Great.
And he said, no. He's like, you are a priority. And so it's like, I go, well, then I need to see your actions back your words.
Right. So if you guys outline what that looks like?
That's where we hit this weird roadblock. He just kind of clammed up at the end of that conversation, and there was no resolution. And I really don't know where to go from that.
Okay, let me make this easy for you. First of all, Rachel, way to go for observing something. All you single women out there, tune in to your sis here. She's giving you some good advice. She noticed, wait a minute, this feels familiar to me. And what she's doing is she's starting to break a pattern, right? Because she's noticing, I felt this before. And she hit pause and she says, I'm going to do something about it. All right. So, Rachel, it is not unusual, for a relationship. It begins and, each other, you're smitten in the, before the ether wears off, and, that person's all there is. You don't think about work. You don't think about anything. And then there's kind of a reintegrating to life. That part's not unusual, but it is not a good sign if the reintegration is kind of a ditching of you, which is kind of how you feel. Right?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So here's what I would do. I would say to him, okay, so, we've enjoyed each other's company. Are you still into this relationship? I would ask him that. You still want us to continue dating like we have, and kind of, okay, if we're on the same page of that, then I think what we need, and I want you to write this down, Rachel, because this is really, really important. Mutually agreed upon expectations. Mutually agreed upon expectations. All right? Okay. So what does that mean? Well, let's get on the same page in terms of what each of us would expect in terms of time and energy. And I'm going to give you 3 different stakeholders in this scenario. Okay? There's 3 stakeholders that are vying for this one resource we call time. All right? The first stakeholder is the relationship. The relationship needs time together. Okay? So there is for us to thrive, we need X amount of time together. Okay? Another stakeholder is you. You need time to be able to raise your child, do your work, all that kind of stuff. The other stakeholder is him. He needs time to do his volunteer work, raise his teenager, this, that, and the other. So if you guys are approaching every hour without some sort of expectation written down that you understand, every hour you're going to be going, well, he could be with me now. 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 And that can turn into a never ending kind of frustration. All right. But
yes, that's exactly where I'm at.
That's where you are. So we're going to structure this. We're going to sit down and say, okay, there's 4 weekends in the month. There's 2 days in every weekend. There's 3 nights in every weekend. There's midweek. There's whatever, all of this stuff, given all of your different, responsibilities, Joey. What would you like? What would you expect? What would you desire in terms of we time? And here's what I would desire. And let's see how close we are in thinking the same way. And then if we're thinking the same way and we can get to a reasonable kind of, this is the same way. And by the way, there's going to be personality differences here. If somebody's introverted versus extroverted versus, whatever. But you get to a place where we're a pretty good match in desired time together, then let's let's agree to that, and then let's just find it. That way we're not going through the zone. And then you got 2 things to find out here. One is, do you guys see a relationship similarly enough for it to be viable? Okay. There are some couples that, they can live on opposite coasts and they're fine, but they have the same expectation. There are other couples that I've got one friend, if his wife goes out for a girls' night out, he's lost. I mean, he can't even find the light switch. Okay. Either Tori or I would go crazy like that. We have our time with our own pals. We have our times together. We have the family times, all that kind of stuff. The important thing is that you have the same desires so you can have mutually agreed upon expectations. So A, you got to find out if you guys are really compatible in this way. And B, then once he says he is, and you set the expectations in a way that's satisfactory to you, now we're looking at the track record. So we're going to watch and see if he lives that out. And if he doesn't, then you've got a different problem. Okay?
Okay.
See, what this is going to rescue you from is becoming naggy. You don't want to be nagging him.
Right.
Why do you have to talk somebody into coming and being with you?
Exactly.
You don't want to do that.
I don't.
Who does?
I feel like I'm making him spend time with me, but then whenever I ask him about it, because I asked him about it 2 weeks ago, I said, is this not what you want? Do you need some time? He's like, no, I don't want to scale back the relationship. I'm like, okay.
You don't want to what the relationship?
I'm kind of confused. He doesn't want to scale back the relationship.
Oh, well, it'd be hard to scale it back if he never shows up. Of course he doesn't want to scale it back. What are you going to do? Fall off the edge of the earth? Lose your number? How do you scale back from ignoring you? And so anyway, I wouldn't be that snitty. I'm just kind of expressing my frustration for you in this.
Yes.
But I don't want you to become controlling and naggy because he'll move away from you. But I don't want you to be constantly like feeling like somebody don't want to be with you either. So get the expectation set, and maybe you guys are a good match. Maybe you're not. You avoid a train wreck. Maybe. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Rachel. Thanks for your call. This is the Dr. Cloud Show. I think we are, let me see. I think we're, the funny thing about all of my, we're in COVID lockdown. I'm in the 1-person studio here. And my team is out around the country. So I'm having to follow stuff. And I don't know. Yeah, we are kind of out of time for calls. It looks like they just tell me. I wish we could have, there are so many good questions here. I wish we could have got. We will though. You call us back. It's so it's so amazing how sometimes some things that are so what's the word? I mean, they're so obviously dysfunctional. that it would seem that just people that are awake, I mean, literally awake, like not sleeping, that you would notice that's weird. This is a problem. That can't last like that. If you keep doing that, you would just sort of think that. But what happens to humanity? Well, you can put a lot of fancy, $64 words on it, but I like the way I like the way the Bible puts it. It says we were designed to live at this level up here. Here's the stage we were supposed to live out life on, and we were supposed to, pretty much live it out like it was designed. And we fell to a lower level of functioning. Boom. Now we can't even see sometimes. We had a caller where his friend is abusing his own family. He's not standing up for it. Well, what is that? I mean, we got to see this stuff. So, my family here, you guys, we're building a tribe here. I love you guys. I love how you join together and enter in on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, and you help each other and give feedback, and you give me encouraging words. And I really am grateful for this listening family. And you're, passing it on to friends and having them join us, and it's a cool thing. So here's what I want from my family today. And we'll be your bro here and give you a little advice. Get in the air traffic control tower. Okay. Your life is like LAX. It's like an airport. And there's issues flying in and landing here and taking off and different people running around and all of that. And all of that's happening in different ways. But there's a guy up in the tower that sees all of that from above it, isn't lost in the problems, sees all of that and says, whoa, if I scheduled that plane coming here, that one won't have time to land. What does that look like in your life? Well, if you're the air traffic controller, well, if I continue in this dysfunction, then this good relationship won't have any space, right? Or if I don't go to my meeting, my sobriety is not going to be able to land in my life. Or if I'm not saving a little money to go to a therapy group or join boundaries.me or read a book or something, then I'm not going to be investing in. See, you're the air traffic controller of your life, and you've got to be a steward over that life. So here's what I want you to do. I just want you to look for patterns. We've heard it a number of times today. A problem is a problem, but when a problem reoccurs, it becomes a recurring problem, and a recurring problem is no longer a problem. It is a pattern, and patterns become mutations in the way a pattern ought to be running, and then a mutation becomes our DNA, becomes our identity, and now we are that dysfunctional person because that pattern took root. Don't let problems become a pattern. Don't do it. And when they do, get in the air traffic control and say, you know what? I've developed a pattern in my life, and I'm going to shut down that runway and open up a different one and go that way. All right. So there's your little tip for the day. Pals, come on. I want this for you. Let's stop these patterns and let's develop herd immunity against dysfunction, getting antibodies to all this dysfunction in the world, and you become salt and light, and it cannot infect you. And the definition of health, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, is that you have, in part, an immune system where other people's infection of their dysfunction can't take root. How does a vaccine work? Well, in part, it works by blocking the ability for the germs to take root. And so I want you immune from this stuff, and you're helping each other do that. All right. And part of immunity is gaining information. Go to boundaries.me, become a subscriber. We're hearing from more and more people that are doing that, and they're finding the answers that they need to these longstanding problems by going to the website boundaries.me, becoming a subscriber, and you'll see. And also, if you've been touched by divorce, if you're healing from a divorce, trying to heal from a divorce, trying to figure out how do I heal from a divorce, questions, practical things like, should I talk to my ex during the process? He wants to do it without an attorney. He says he'll take care of me. Should I do that? What about the kids? What about I picked this guy once? What's going to keep me from doing it again? How am I going to stop the aching in my heart? Will it ever go away? Are there ways I can make the pain go away? All of these questions are part of recovering well from divorce. And on October 22nd, we're going to have a 2-hour live event here, which you can log into by signing up. And also, if you can't be live, if you sign up, you'll be able to, access it later by going to boundaries.me/recover. The word recover, not recovery, but recover. Boundaries.me/recover to sign up for the divorce recovery workshop that day called Recover Well. Okay, hope you're recovering well from the weekend. Everybody said, what was that song about the weekend? I think that's like upcoming weekend. I don't know. Anyway, stay well, be safe, and